What if I told you the next great leap in artificial intelligence won't be about making computers faster, but about making them stranger? So strange, in fact, that they operate on the very edge of reality, in a realm of probability and uncertainty that makes our everyday world look like a child's coloring book. We're constantly bombarded with headlines about the AI revolution, a tidal wave of progress driven by machines that learn, create, and reason. But just over the horizon, there's another wave building: quantum computing. In the story everyone wants to tell, that when these two waves collide, they'll create a tsunami of innovation that will change everything. But is that story true? Or are we chasing a beautiful, shimmering mirage? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most hyped, most misunderstood, and most fascinating ideas in modern technology: the fusion of quantum and AI. This isn't just a story about technology, it's a story about ambition, limitations, and the search for a new kind of intelligence. Let's begin where all great tech stories do, with a bold, almost unbelievable promise. The promise is that quantum computers, these near-mythical machines, could one day train our most powerful AI models at speeds that make today's supercomputers look like pocket calculators. To understand the sheer magnitude of this claim, we need to appreciate the beast we're trying to tame. Let's take Meta's recent powerhouse, the Llama 3.1 model. This isn't just a chatbot. It's a digital brain built with 405 billion parameters. Think of parameters as the individual neurons and synapses in a human brain, each one a tiny knob that gets tuned during the learning process. To tune these 405 billion knobs, Llama 3.1 was fed a diet of 15 trillion tokens of data. That's equivalent to reading every book in the Library of Congress thousands of times over. Now, let's talk about the cost of that education. If you tried to train this model on a single, high-end GPU, the workhorse of the AI world, you need to be patient. Very patient. It would take roughly 4,486 years. That's not a typo. Your training process would have started around the time the ancient Egyptians were building the Temple of Karnak and would just be finishing up today. Of course, we don't do it that way. We do something much smarter. We use what's called parallel computing. Meta used a colossal cluster of 16,000 GPUs, working in perfect harmony. By breaking the problem into tiny pieces and having each GPU work on a piece simultaneously, they crushed that 4500-year timeline down to just 3 months. This is the power of our current paradigm, a massive, brute force parallelism. It's a stunning achievement of engineering, testament to human ingenuity. And right into this scene of incredible success, quantum computing walks in and says, "That's cute, but I can do it better." This is the central question, the dramatic tension of our story. How can a technology still in its infancy possibly hope to outperform a system that has been refined, optimized, and scaled to such an epic degree? What secret does it hold? Before we can appreciate the quantum promise, we have to respect the reigning king: parallel computing. Think of it like building one of the Great Pyramids. If one person were tasked with quarrying, moving, and setting every single stone, it would take millennia. But if you have tens of thousands of workers, each with a specific job, some cutting, some hauling, some lifting, the monumental task becomes manageable. That's parallel computing. The massive AI training task is the pyramid, and the thousands of GPUs are the specialized workers. Each of these GPU workers is a master of one specific craft: matrix multiplication. This is the fundamental mathematical operation at the heart of virtually all neural networks. Every time an AI model processes information, whether it's identifying a cat in a photo or translating a sentence, it's performing a dizzying number of these multiplications. The raw power of a system is measured by how many of these calculations it can perform per second, a unit called a flop, or a floating point operation. And the numbers here are genuinely astronomical. Training that Llama 3.1 model required approximately 10 flops. Let me put that number in perspective for you. 10 is a 1 followed by 25 zeros. The number of grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth is estimated to be around 10. The number of stars in our Milky Way galaxy is about 10. we are talking about a computational workload that dwarfs anything we can physically comprehend. Our current method of tackling this is simple and effective. If you need more power, add more GPUs. If 16,000 isn't enough, use 32,000. If that's not enough, build a bigger data center. It's a strategy of scaling by addition, but this path has its own limits. The energy consumption is staggering. Some AI data centers use as much electricity as a small city. The communication between all those GPUs becomes a bottleneck. Coordinating tens of thousands of workers is an immense challenge. So, the question is not just if quantum computing can be faster, but if it can offer a fundamentally different and more efficient way to solve this problem. If our current approach is like building a pyramid with 1 million workers, the quantum promise is like having a single architect who can visualize the entire pyramid in all its detail in a single moment of inspiration. But how do you go from 1 million hands to a single, all-powerful mind? This is where we hit our first major misconception, a popular sci-fi trope that has clouded our understanding. The common belief is that a quantum computer is fast because it can perform all possible calculations simultaneously. You feed it a problem, and it magically explores every single path at once, instantly spitting out the right answer. It's a seductive idea, but it's a profound oversimplification. To understand the real difference, let's look at a historical parallel. Think about the leap from the CPU central processing unit to the GPU graphics processing unit. A CPU is like a brilliant, versatile chef. It can expertly prepare any dish you ask for, from a complex French sauce to a simple salad, but it generally works on one dish at a time. A GPU, on the other hand, is like an assembly line of 1,000 cooks who can only make French fries. They can't make a sauce or a salad, but they can produce 1 million perfect fries in an hour. The key here is that both the master chef and the fry cooks are using the same fundamental ingredients and principles of cooking. They both use heat, knives, and pans. In the computer world, both the CPU and GPU are built on the same architecture, binary, transistor-based logic. The world is defined by bits, which can be either a 0 or a 1. A light switch is either on or off. There is no in-between. The jump from a GPU to a quantum processing unit is not like hiring more fry cooks. It's like discovering a new form of matter. It's a complete paradigm shift. We're leaving the deterministic, black and white world of binary and entering the probabilistic, grayscale world of quantum mechanics. Instead of bits, a quantum computer uses qubits. And a qubit isn't just a 0 or a 1. Thanks to a principle called superposition, a qubit can be a 1, or a delicate, probabilistic blend of both at the same time. Imagine a spinning coin. Before it lands, it's not heads and it's not tails. It's in a state of potential, holding the possibility of both outcomes. That spinning coin is a qubit. The true power of quantum computing comes from harnessing this uncertainty, this ability for qubits to exist in a vast space of possibilities all at once. It's not about doing all the math at once. It's about exploring a complex landscape of possibilities in a way that is fundamentally inaccessible to a classical computer. And this brings us to the very heart of the problem, the immense, frustrating, and fascinating challenge that researchers are grappling with right now. If quantum computers operate in this strange world of probabilities and superposition, how on earth do we translate our deterministic classical data into their language? Our AI models are built on concrete data, the exact pixel values of an image, the precise sequence of words in a sentence. This is a world of 0 second and 1 second, a world of facts. The quantum world, by contrast, is a world of maybes. The naive approach would be to simply map our classical data directly. We could say, okay, let's decide that a qubit in the O state represents a classical O, and a qubit in the 1 state represents a classical 1. But if we do that, we've completely missed the point. We've bought a state-of-the-art fighter jet and decided to only drive it on the highway. We've forced the quantum computer to behave like a classical one, throwing away its single greatest advantage, superposition. All that magical potential of the spinning coin is lost the moment we force it to be heads or tails. The real challenge is to find clever ways to encode our data into the rich, probabilistic states of qubits. It's a translation problem of the highest order. It's not like translating a word from English to Spanish. It's like trying to translate a Shakespearean sonnet into the language of pure mathematics. How do you capture the nuance, the structure, and the meaning of a high-resolution image of a cat within the quantum states of a few hundred qubits? This is not a trivial problem. It's a barrier of entry. And while quantum researchers are working on this fiendishly difficult puzzle, the classical world isn't standing still. The parallel computing paradigm, with its thousands of GPUs, is already running laps, delivering incredible results day in and day out. It's already fluent in the language of our data. So, the pressure on the quantum world is immense. It has to invent a new language, a new way of representing information, and it has to be so much better than the existing system that it justifies a complete technological overhaul. The role of quantum computing in AI remains deeply uncertain, not because it isn't powerful, but because we don't yet know how to talk to it. At this point, it's easy to get discouraged and think, well, maybe this quantum AI thing is a dead end. But that's when the story takes a crucial turn. We need to shift our thinking from comparison to clarification. Maybe the question isn't, will quantum computers replace GPUs for training AI? Maybe the right question is, what are quantum computers actually good for in the realm of AI? Let's go back to our CPU and GPU analogy. Did GPUs replace CPUs? Absolutely not. You're watching this on a device that has a CPU at its core. It runs your operating system, your web browser, your email. The CPU is the general-purpose brain of the operation. The GPU is a specialized coprocessor that gets called in for heavy-lifting tasks like gaming, video rendering, and, of course, AI training. They aren't competitors, they are collaborators. Each has a role it excels at. Perhaps this is the future for quantum computing. A Q might not be the machine you use to train an entire 400 billion parameter language model from scratch. That might always be a job best suited for the brute force parallelism of classical GPUs. Instead, the Q could become an essential, specialized tool for solving a very specific part of the AI puzzle, a part that classical computers are fundamentally bad at. What could that be? One prime candidate is optimization. Many problems in AI and logistics are essentially massive optimization puzzles, like finding the most efficient delivery route for a fleet of thousands of trucks, or designing a new drug by figuring out how a protein will fold in the most stable way. These problems have an exponential number of possible solutions, and classical computers have to check them one by one, which can take an eternity. A quantum computer, by leveraging its ability to explore a vast possibility space, could potentially find the optimal solution in a fraction of the time. So, imagine a future AI development pipeline where 99% of the training is done on a massive GPU cluster, but for one critical, impossibly complex optimization step, the data is sent to a Q. The Q does its quantum magic, solves the unsolvable piece of the puzzle, and sends the answer back to the classical system. In this model, the Q isn't a replacement. It's an accelerator, a secret weapon. The skepticism is still valid. Parallel computing works incredibly well right now, but the path forward for quantum might not be a head-on collision, but finding a clever side door where its unique talents can truly shine. This brings us from the world of pure science to the harsh, unforgiving world of economics. For any new technology to survive, let alone thrive, it needs a market. It needs customers, it needs revenue, and it needs a clear value proposition. And this is where quantum computing faces a massive dilemma. Right now, the single biggest magnet for capital, talent, and attention in the tech world is AI. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry in the making. Naturally, quantum computing companies and researchers see this and want a piece of the pie. The narrative becomes, our technology can revolutionize AI, because that's where the investment money is. If you can convince investors that quantum and AI are synergistic, that one will amplify the other, then the funding floodgates will open. But if they are seen as competitors, where quantum is trying to unseat a hugely successful and entrenched technology, it's a much harder sell. Let's look at the history of NVIDIA, a company that is now at the heart of the AI boom. Their story is a masterclass in market strategy. In the 1990s, NVIDIA wasn't trying to build a better CPU to compete with Intel head-on. That would have been suicide. Instead, they found a niche, a low-bar market that was passionate, demanding, and desperately underserved by general-purpose CPUs, PC gaming. Gamers wanted realistic 3D graphics, with complex lighting, textures, and physics. CPUs struggled with this intensely parallel workload. NVIDIA built specialized hardware, the first GPUs to do just that. The gaming market became their lifeline. It provided them with the revenue and the real-world feedback loop to iterate, innovate, and perfect their technology year after year. For over a decade, they were primarily a gaming company, but in doing so, they inadvertently built the perfect engine for the deep learning revolution that was to come. When AI researchers discovered that GPUs were incredible at the matrix math needed for neural networks, NVIDIA was ready. They had spent years building the most powerful parallel processors in the world, all funded by the gaming industry. Quantum computing now finds itself in a similar position. It needs its gaming market. It needs an industry or a set of problems where it can provide a 10x or 100x improvement right now, even with its current limitations. Is it drug discovery and molecular simulation for pharmaceutical companies? Is it portfolio optimization for Wall Street hedge funds? Is it materials science for battery development? Finding this beachhead market is arguably more important for the short-term survival and growth of quantum computing than solving AI. That first killer app will fuel the innovation, fund the R&D, and give the industry the runway it needs to mature. Without it, quantum computing risks being a technology of the future forever. Even if we find the perfect market, there's another giant hurdle to overcome: scaling. For over 50 years, the classical computing world has been guided by a simple, powerful observation known as Moore's law. It predicted that the number of transistors on a microchip would double approximately every 2 years, leading to exponential growth in computing power. And it held true, giving us the incredible devices we have today. It's tempting to think that quantum computers will follow a similar path, a quantum Moore's law, but the physics are entirely different. Scaling a classical computer is a challenge of lithography, of finding ways to etch smaller and smaller circuits onto silicon. It's an engineering problem. Scaling a quantum computer is a challenge of fundamental physics. As of 2024, the most advanced quantum systems have a few hundred, or perhaps just over 1,000, physical qubits. Let's be optimistic and assume a quantum Moore's law exists, and we can double the number of high-quality qubits every 2 years. If we start with, say, 1,000 qubits today, in 2 years, we'd have 2,000. In 4 years, 4,000. By 2034, a decade from now, we'd have just under 10,000 qubits. That sounds impressive, but the algorithms needed to tackle large-scale AI problems or break modern encryption are thought to require millions of stable error-corrected qubits. Our optimistic doubling law doesn't even get us close. Furthermore, it's not just about the number of qubits. It's about their quality. As you add more qubits, the problem of keeping them all in their fragile quantum states, a property called coherence, grows exponentially harder. It's not like building a taller skyscraper by just adding more floors. It's like building a skyscraper out of soap bubbles, where adding a new bubble makes all the other bubbles more likely to pop. The engineering challenge is not just to add more qubits, but to make them more stable, better connected, and less prone to errors. Moore's law was a roadmap for classical computing. For quantum, we are still drawing the map. This brings us to the raw, unvarnished truth of today's quantum hardware. Even with systems that have hundreds of qubits, they are far from perfect. They are plagued by instability and high error rates. This is the single biggest obstacle standing between us and useful quantum computation. In a classical computer, errors are anathema. A single bit flipping from a 0 to a 1 at the wrong time can crash your entire operating system. The hardware is designed to be virtually perfect. With error rates so low, they're practically non-existent. In a quantum computer, errors are the norm. That delicate, spinning coin state of a qubit is incredibly fragile. The slightest disturbance from the outside world, a tiny vibration, a fluctuation in temperature, a stray magnetic field can cause it to decahere, to collapse out of its quantum state, and lose the information it holds. This phenomenon, quantum decoherence, is the arch nemesis of every quantum engineer. It means that quantum computations are inherently noisy and error-prone. To overcome this, researchers are attacking the problem from all sides. They're designing smarter quantum algorithms that are more resilient to noise. They're developing incredibly complex quantum error correction codes, which use many physical qubits to create a single, more stable logical qubit. But this is hugely expensive. It might take 1,000 or even 10,000 physical qubits just to create one reliable logical qubit. And the hardware race is on. You have a whole ecosystem of brilliant companies, each betting on a different physical approach to building a qubit. IonQ uses individual trapped ions, held in place by lasers. IBM and Rigetti use superconducting circuits, cooled to temperatures colder than deep space. D-Wave uses a method called quantum annealing, specialized for optimization problems. NVIDIA and Microsoft are working on different aspects, from simulation to software. Each approach has its own pros and cons in the battle against decoherence, and for scalability, fidelity, and coherence, time. This is the messy, difficult, and exhilarating reality of the field today. We can't use these machines for large-scale AI training yet because they are simply too small, too noisy, and too unstable. We are still in the vacuum tube era of quantum computing, figuring out the fundamental building blocks before we can even dream of building the quantum equivalent of a data center. So, after this long journey through hype, hardware, and harsh realities, we circle back to our original question: how will quantum computing and AI truly converge? Will QPUs become the next GPUs, the new engine of the AI revolution, or will they find a completely different destiny? The truth is, no one knows for sure. But the most likely outcome is not a simple replacement, but a complex and fascinating partnership. We may see a future where classical AI, powered by ever more efficient GPUs, handles 99% of the world's intelligence tasks. Perhaps large language models will eventually become as ubiquitous and specialized as Microsoft Excel is today, an incredibly powerful tool for a specific domain, organizing and analyzing structured information, but not the ultimate pinnacle of intelligence we once imagined. And in that world, quantum computers might be the key to the next paradigm. They could be the tool that allows us to tackle problems that are not just computationally expensive, but truly incomprehensible to classical systems. Problems in fundamental science, in understanding the quantum nature of materials, molecules, and even the universe itself. Perhaps the true breakthrough will come when we use quantum computers to build an AI that can understand quantum mechanics on a native level. An AI that can harness knowledge in ways we can't yet imagine, unlocking new discoveries in medicine, energy, and physics. And here lies the lesson for all of us, in our own lives and careers. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype of a new technology and view the world as a simple battle between the old and the new. But innovation is rarely that clean. The real progress often happens in the messy, collaborative space in between. It's about understanding that different tools are suited for different problems. A hammer is a fantastic tool, but it makes for a terrible screwdriver. The wisdom is in knowing which tool to use, and when. It's about being a critical thinker, questioning the hype, and looking for the deeper, more nuanced truth. Don't just ask, is this new thing better? Ask, what new problems can this new thing help me solve? This journey into the quantum realm is a reminder that the edge of human knowledge is a strange and wonderful place. It's filled with challenges that seem insurmountable, but it's also filled with the promise of a future that is richer and more fascinating than we can currently conceive. So, I'll leave you with a couple of questions to ponder. What do you think will be the gaming market for quantum computers, the first real-world application where they prove their worth? And if you were given access to a fully functional quantum computer today, what problem in your own life or in the world would you try to solve with it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a conversation worth having. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I hope it's given you a clearer picture of this incredible technological frontier. I wish you all the very best of health, happiness, and curiosity. And if you enjoyed this journey into the heart of technology and want to explore more big ideas with us, please take a moment to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next adventure. Until next time.